Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. So we do have a very interesting and huge video. We are going to be talking about why Hansi Flick is slowly replacing Marc Casadó with Frenkie De Jong, because we all know that in the beginning of this season, Marc Casadó was the main central defensive midfielder to be paired with Pedri. When it wasn't Pedri, it was Eric Garcia, and Casado had a lot of huge games in the beginning of this season. Most importantly, showing up for the matches against Real Madrid and Bayern Munich. But why today is Frenkie De Jong now being used more than Marc Casadó, and we're starting to see a set midfield of Pedri and Frenkie De Jong. Currently, they are immovable. So we are going to be discussing Marc Casadó's evolution, very similar to what we did in the Pedri video. The same thing is going to go for Frenkie De Jong, and then finally reach a conclusion on why Hansi Flick does prefer Frenkie over Casado as of now. So Marc Casadó's progression through La Masia was marked by positional versatility and tactical intelligence. When he was a youth player, he did alternate between a right back and a defensive midfielder, and developing exceptional spatial awareness, but he did lack the typical midfield orchestrator skill set. Overall, Marc Casadó was a gem, and back in the summer of 2024, after the end of the 2023-2024 season, Barça Athletic were going through a lot of difficulties, and they failed to reach promotion. And one of the biggest stories on that night was Marc Casadó may be leaving FC Barcelona. But then came Hansi Flick. Hansi Flick said, look, you are a great player, a player that I can utilize, and I need you in this squad because I do have great plans for you. And Hansi Flick ever since then has deployed him as a high intensity pressing midfielder. In terms of his vertical passing range, Casado completed 88% of forward passes in La Liga through December 2024 and averaging 6.3 progressive passes per 90 minutes. In terms of his defensive anticipation, his 2.8 interceptions per game in the Champions League group stages ranked third among the under-21 midfielders. In terms of positional discipline, Marc Casadó maintained an average positioning error margin of just 1.2 meters from the assigned zones, which is very critical to Flick's rigid positional play system. So these type of qualities that Casado possessed in the first 4 to 5 months of the season made him an indispensable player, especially knowing that Barcelona were going through an injury crisis because of Gavi's recovery from the ACL surgery and also Frenkie De Jong managing his ankle discomfort. Then comes Frenkie De Jong, where we do have a bigger history because Frenkie De Jong and his role really did evolve over the past 5 to 6 years. Back in the 2019-2020 season, he was implemented as a deep line playmaker. On the right side, we'll be able to see the key limitations that he did have during those roles. Then comes the 2020-2021 season, he was a box-to-box midfielder. In the 2021-2022 season, he was a left-sided interior. In Xavi's first full season, he was implemented in the double pivot position with Sergio Busquets. And then came the 2023-2024 season, where he was a hybrid, playing as a number 6 or a number 8, sharing the possession in the midfield with Andreas Christensen. Once Frenkie De Jong came back and he was fully ready, Hansi Flick made huge modifications for this season, which is going to be revolving around 3 different things. Point number 1, Flick demanded 35% reduction in lateral passes, right? Those safety passes that pissed us off, pushing Frenkie De Jong's progressive pass rate from 7.1 to 9.3 per 90 minutes. In terms of his defensive engagement, his tackles plus interceptions rose from 4.2 to 6.8 per 90 minutes. Point number 3, the leadership role. He was assigned to hold match tempo control duties that was previously reserved for veterans like Sergio Busquets. So Frenkie De Jong is slowly starting to become a complete Barcelona midfielder. He also averaged 80.4% dual success rate in the February 2025 matches so far. So there are 3 different reasons why Frenkie De Jong started to emerge. Point number 1 is the fact that he was much more tactically flexible, because in Flick's 3-4-3 diamond, it did require for Frenkie De Jong to shift between defensive screening and creative penetration, which he excelled in. When it came to the big games that Barcelona had through January and February, Frenkie De Jong also really did show up. And then point number 3 is his physical condition. For example, Frenkie De Jong's sprint repeatability has increased by 22% since December. So Frenkie De Jong is getting faster and is getting stronger. When we compare Frenkie De Jong and Casado right now, in terms of the progressive passes per 90, Marc Casadó only generates 6.3 and Frenkie De Jong has 9.3. In terms of pressures won, Casado wins 38% of the time, while Frenkie De Jong wins 42% of the time. In terms of the expected goal build-up per 90, 0.34 and Frenkie's 0.51. And then comes the huge one, right? The aerial dual success rate. Marc Casadó is very low on this, averaging 29%, and Frenkie De Jong is averaging 63%, more than 50%. That's insane. And here are going to be some system requirements that Hansi Flick does have for all of his players. In terms of the high pressing sustainability, Marc Casadó is better. He averages a 9 out of 10, while Frenkie De Jong averages a 7 out of 10. In terms of vertical passing chains. Marc Casadó is very low compared to Frenkie De Jong, averaging 6 out of 10, and Frenkie De Jong has a 9 out of 10 score. In terms of big game composure, Marc Casadó is a 5 out of 10 score, while Frenkie De Jong is an 8 out of 10. Positional flexibility, 7 out of 10, while Frenkie De Jong has 9 out of 10 score. Frenkie De Jong, as of now, is the superior one. And I do think that there was a pivotal moment through this season that did show Hansi Flick that he needed to make a change. I do think that it did have something to do with Marc Casadó making that huge error against Atletico Madrid back in December, where he made a turnover error because he was being pressed and gave the ball to Atletico Madrid, and it led towards Barcelona losing points in La Liga. Ever since that day, we really did start to see Frenkie De Jong get more and more minutes. I mean, like for example, in the match against Sevilla that we had recently, Frenkie De Jong, in the game that he did start in, showcased refined risk calibration. Like there were 0 turnovers in a span of 90 minutes. When Frenkie De Jong does get pressed, he rarely does turn around and make backward passes. With Marc Casadó, it is just different. Here's also going to be further stats on how Barcelona do play altogether when Marc Casadó is starting or when Frenkie De Jong is starting. The average possession that Barcelona have with Casado starting instead of Frenkie is 56%, while with Frenkie De Jong we have 62%. The pass accuracy goes from 87 to 91% with Frenkie De Jong. The goal scored per match shoots from 1.8 to 2.2 with Frenkie De Jong yet again. Now in terms of goals conceded per match, with Marc Casadó we do concede less, and that is because Marc Casadó knows how to defend. His off-the-ball defensive discipline in the defensive third is where Marc Casadó excels at. So Casado is slightly better than Frenkie De Jong by around 0.3 points. When it comes to the expected goals, with Marc Casadó we average 1.9, with Frenkie De Jong 2.4, almost 3 goals per 90 minutes. And then comes the expected goals against, where with Marc Casadó we do average 1.2 and with Frenkie De Jong 0.9. So the conclusion is this: in the current form of Frenkie and in the current form of Marc Casadó, when Barcelona have Frenkie, Barcelona do play better. To give you guys some examples that happened very recently, going back to what I did state, in the match against Sevilla where we won 4-1, Frenkie De Jong reclaimed his position for sure because he completed 94 out of 98 passes and contributed directly to 2 goals through pre-assist sequences that broke Sevilla's defensive lines. In the match against Rayo Vallecano where Barcelona won 1-0, it showcased Frenkie De Jong's ability to manage tight games under pressure because Rayo Vallecano were very aggressive in terms of pressing, but Frenkie De Jong maintained composure, completing all 7 of his progressive carries while recovering possession 8 total times. So as of now, Marc Casadó is going to have to fight for his place, and he definitely has a huge mountain to climb. So that is it. That is going to be wrapping up today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one.